All right, guys, so welcome to the next coding assignment. And this coding assignment is going to be print permutations of a string. So the coding assignment is going to be to write a program that will print out all the permutations of a string. So you're probably asking yourself, what are permutations? Permutations means one of several possible variations. So let me give you an example. Let's say we take the word run. When we take the word run, there are different permutations of this string, or there are different variations of this string. So for example, we take the word run and we want to print out the permutations. We're going to get a list of all these permutations here. So we have RUN, RNU, URN, UNR, NRU, NUR. So basically what's happening is that we're moving the letters within this word so that they are different from the original word that we pass in. And we ultimately just want to make sure that we're going to print out different variations of this original word. That's pretty much what permutations are. So this is the process when it comes to implementing the code. We're first of all going to create ourselves a Java project. We're then going to create a method that takes in two parameters. One parameter would be the given string, which is the word that we want to find the permutations of. And then the second parameter would be for permutations of that string. So it's basically going to be a string that will be gradually populated by the method itself. And what's going to happen is that when this particular parameter is fully populated, then we're going to print that permutation out. Also want to note that the method that we're going to be implementing is going to be recursive. And this pretty much means that the method will continuously call itself until all permutations are printed out. So without further ado, let's jump right into the code. All right, guys, welcome to the coding portion of this video. So as you can see, I already have my project set up. I've named it Permutation Assignment. And what we're going to be doing here is implementing the code that will print all permutations of a string. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is to go into our main method here. And I'm going to zoom this in for you guys. All right, so inside this main method, I'm going to create myself a string s equals. I'm going to start off with a simple string, cat. And then after that, I'm just going to create the actual method that we need to implement. So as you can see, we have a string and we've named the string s and we've set the value of the string to cat. All right, so next thing I want to do is actually create the print permutations method. But before I do that, I'm just going to add a description, method that will print all permutations of a string. And then from there, just going to go public static void print permutation. Then I'm just going to have this method take in two parameters, string str, string permutation. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this method and basically I'm going to first of all create myself an if conditional statement. All right. If str.length equals 0, then I want to do something. I just simply want to system.out.println and then I'm just gonna go permutation plus an empty space. And then right after this, I just want to go return. All right, so what's going on here is that, let me just add a description here. If string is empty, then print permutation. All right, so basically what's going on here is that we have a method, print permutations, and this print permutations is going to take in a string, and then it's also going to take in the permutation. So initially, when we call this method, we're going to pass in the string cat here, and then we're going to pass in an empty string as a permutation. And then from there, what's going to happen is that we're basically checking to see if the string is going to be equal to an empty string. And if it is, then we want to print something out. And what's going to happen is that this string is eventually going to make its way through the code that we're about to implement. And gradually what's going to happen is that it's going to become an empty string over a certain number of iterations. And also I wanted you guys to know that this is going to be a recursive method. So this part may not make sense right now, but once I start implementing the rest of the code, it's going to make a whole lot more sense. So let's just continue implementing this for right now, and then I can explain this if conditional statement a little bit later. So I then want to iterate through the entire string. I'm just going to go for int I equals 0. I is lesser than str.length I plus plus. And this loop is pretty straightforward. We basically have the string that we pass in, and we're going to create a loop to iterate through every letter of this string. And then after that, I'm going to simply just create a character. And before I create that character, I'm going to give a little bit of a description about it. It's going to be a char variable to keep track of the ith character. Char ch equals str dot char at position I. Okay, so basically what's happening is that whenever we're going through the permutations of a string, we need to be able to keep track of each letter within that string to make sure that when we print out a permutation is not the same as the last permutation that we print out. So we want to be able to keep track of the ith character. So let's just take this for an example. Let's just say we're trying to figure out what the value of ch is here. So we already know that our string that we are going to be passing in is going to be called cat. Okay, so cat. And then what's going to happen is that we're going to make our way down to this variable. And char ch equals string.char at position I. So let's just say we're on the first iteration. First iteration is going to be 0, str.char at position 0, which is the letter C. And this variable is going to be used in our next implementation of the code when we do the recursive call. But before we even get to the recursive call, we need to implement something else really quick. We need to first of all create a variable called rest of string. So I'm just going to go rest of the string after excluding the ith character. Okay, so I'm just going to go string rest of string. That's what the ROS stands for. Set that equal to str.substring 0, I plus str.substring I plus 1. Okay. So as you see what's happening here, and also based on the name, rest of the string pretty much means the rest of the string. So if you remember when we first iterated through this loop, the ith variable is going to be 0. So str.chart at position 0 is going to be C. And then what's going to happen is that the rest of the string will be this string excluding the first character. So this value would be C, and then this value value would be AT. And then what we're going to do next is actually create a recursive call where we're going to pass in both of these values. And hopefully this rest of string is pretty straightforward. We're basically just taking the rest of the string, including actually excluding the ith character. So substring string.substring at position 0, 0. Let's just say this is the first iteration. str.substring 0, 0. That's going to be an empty string plus the substring of the string at 1, because we're at 0 here. That's going to be 1. So substring 1. So string.substring 1 is going to be equal to AT. And then a recursive call, which is going to be print permutation ROS permutation plus CH. And this is pretty much all the code we need. So what's going to happen here is that once we get to this method here where we're making a recursive call to the method that we're in, we're going to pass in the rest of the string. We know the rest of the string is AT, and then we know the permutation plus CH is pretty much going to be the letter C here, because permutation going in is going to be empty, and CH is going to be equal to C. So what's going to happen is that this ROS AT is going to be now passed in as the initial string. And then from there, we're going to make our way through this loop again until this str is going to be equal to an empty string, which therefore will print out the permutation. So I'm just going to run this. Just save. I'm going to run it. Let's just see. Well, actually, let's not run it yet. We have to actually call this method. So let's just zoom this in really, really quick, and then just go print permutations s comma empty string. And if we run it, we're going to get cat, CAT, and then next CTA, ACT, ATC, TCA, and TAC. So as you can see, this is printing out all of the permutations of this string that we have here. And in addition to the implementation, I just wanted to give you guys a little bit more insight on what's going on upon each iteration of the loop. So basically what's happening here is that in the first iteration, we're going to have the string, and that value is going to be equal to cat. So when it makes its way to this loop, we know that the string value is going to be equal to cat, and the CH value here is going to be equal to C. And then our ROS value here, rest of the string value, is going to be AT. And then the permutation plus CH is going to be equal to C. Now, upon our second iteration, what's going to happen is that our string is then going to be equal to AT. Okay, it's going to be equal to AT because we're no longer starting with cat, we basically are we're pretty much taking what's in this print permutation, and then we're passing in the Ross, and then that's going to be the new string that's passed up here. Okay, so Ross we know is AT, and that's what we get from this previous iteration. And then after that, we're going to have a CH, which is going to be equal to the letter A. And then the rest of the string is going to be equal to the letter T. And then the permutation plus the CH is going to be equal to CA. And then in this third iteration, the STR is going to be equal to the Ross, which is going to be T. And then the CH is going to be equal, this right here, is going to be equal to T. And then the Ross is going to be equal to an empty string. And then the permutation plus CH is going to be equal to CAT. Now, once it executes this method on that third iteration, it's going to make its way up here. And then the string value will now be whatever the Ross was. So that's pretty much going to be an empty string. And with this if conditional statement, if string dot length equals 0, then we want to print out the permutation. The permutation was passed in from our last iteration, which is iteration 3. And pretty much the permutation is going to be the word cat. So hopefully this document makes it a little bit more clear on what's going on up on each iteration. So pretty much I just did the cat iteration, but if you were to continue and make your way through the next iterations, the next iteration would then start off with the ith character, and then pretty much from there it would go through that same process, but instead of starting off with CAT up on that ith iteration, what's going to happen is that it's then going to start off with AT, and then it's going to find another permutation based on that. So hopefully this makes sense to you guys. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. Also, if you want me to post this notes for the permutation in the description, let me know, and I'll just have a Google Doc link that I can send you guys to. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video if you've learned something from here. Also, don't forget to subscribe, and see you in the next one.